I'm back in the document that's 40 pages long that will be perfect bound with a wider inside margin. And it might seem overwhelming to have a document with 40 blank pages staring at you, but I think it's a good place to start by building some master pages. You can't really build a master page unless you know the content that you're building for, but it's once you have that settled, which you should have done this last week, you can start to envision how you want this document to read and to look out and how you want the flow to be. And so master pages will help you create that basic template for yourself to use. So I'm going to double click. I went to pages. I'm going to double click on master page. And part of your assignment was to have a folio. The very basic minimum part of a folio is a page number, right? So that people can know where they are within the document. So I'm going to hit T for text, and I'm going to make a little text box down here, and we're not going to use Minion Pro and the default because that's no fun. So I'm just going to use Acumen Pro. It's 18 different weights on that typeface. It's really robust font. Let's make these really lightweight, just a small little, hey, you're here, without needing to be a big graphic element on the page. And we can drop that down to a 10 point. There's not going to be more than one line of text here. So having it 10/12 is fine with the leading. It's fine to default. And what I want to do now is I want to go to type, insert a special character, go to markers, and insert a current page number. And you can see that it put in the letter A down here. Hello, little a. Now, what I want to make sure that I'm doing is aligning this to the edge of the margin, which it is. And I also want to align it to a specific place on the page. So I'm going to real quickly draw a text box here. So again, T for text, and I'm going to just put in a text box that takes up the entire space of the margin. If I click exit out of there, so you can see the direct select tools, now I can highlight both of these, and I want that text box, which it represents the margins, to be the primary object that I'm aligning to, and I want my page number to float 1/4 of an inch below that. Now the reason to select a specific alignment will become pretty obvious here in a little bit. This text box does not need to be that big, and I do want page numbers on both sides of the spread. So I'm going to hit the Option key and click and drag this over. You can see I've got the indirect and the direct tool, which indicates that I'm copying. I'm going to hold Shift key so that it stays in alignment all the way across. And then that is here. I'm going to tell it to align to the the right margin. But now look how weird this is, because it looks right here. Here's the margin of the page, and then you get the text number. But that same text box on this side, the text or the page number would be floating in the center, which is weird. So I'm going to go to my paragraph, and I'm going to make this a right aligned paragraph, and so now the page number will automatically line up to the edge of the page. Now other elements that you might see in a folio could be the section that you're in. So I could draw a text box up here, and we'll just say section header, and that is not going to be in Minion, we know. And so let's also make this light and drop it down to 10 so it reads the same as our page number. And I want to make sure that that alignment again is the same. Now if you're thinking about the placement of this on a page, it might be kind of weird to see it on the second page of a spread as opposed to the first, unless you're doing something interesting where you're putting it in the middle margin. Now, real quick, I took this section header, I hit Option to duplicate it. If you hover your mouse near the corners, you'll see that little curved arrow indicating a rotating tool. And if you hold Shift down and click and drag, you can see that it will rotate in 45-degree segments, so you can get a perfect 90-degree rotation there. Now, if I'm deciding to leave this here on this side of the page, I would want to center that paragraph so that it lines up to the center of the page, and I want to center that box on the page as well. So then you could have a folio here that has some information, or you could have a folio here. In this case, I want to make sure that it is aligned in the same way that the page number is. So I'm going to go 0.25 or 1/4 inch above and make sure it's aligned to the outside edge. And I only need to tell you where you are one time, and I don't think that I have anything else because of my content that I want to feature. But if you were doing like an artist portfolio, or say you were featuring different designers within a book, this could be the section on living room interiors, and then this could be the designer that you're featuring. So you could have moments where it was relevant to have multiple elements to your folio, but in this case, we're just going to stay basic because I want you guys to use your imagination and creativity to figure out the best layout for your content. I will also say while we're here that you need to be looking at magazines and books and finding inspiration in things that have really great design, really strong design. And try to duplicate the things that you see that you like in design. You guys, if especially as inexperienced or early young designers, the more good design that you put into your mind, the better it will make you, and you just need to continue to study good design in order to make good design yourself, right? All right, so I've got this master page set up for now. So I'm going to come over here and just show you. You see this A in the corners of all of these pages. It's because the default is that it's set up to master page A. And now all of a sudden I look here and I'm seeing my section header and my page numbers, and they're accurate all the way throughout. And so I want to go in here and type because I put a text box in, and oh no, I can't get into that text box because I need to override the master page items. So there is an element. Now I can go in and edit here, and I could add text to my text box here, but you can't do that without overriding the master page element. So it allows you to create a great format and template, but then you do have to take that step to override it in order to edit the content on that page. Now, this is great for this particular page. But what if I had this exact thing over and over and over and over again times 40 pages or 20 spreads? That's going to be very, very boring. So that's not what we want to do. So let's think about another master page that we can create. So I'm just going to come up back to my master pages and right click, and I'm going to say new master page, and it can be prefix B, that's fine. The page size is staying the same. And so I'm just going to click OK. And now here we are in a new master page. And in this case, I want this to be the title spread for a new section. So I want one side to have a full bleed image. And so I'm going to go ahead and put in the image box here. And then I want this page to have a title. So let's put in a text box for a title, and I'm just going to write title here so that when I'm looking later I know what that is. And let's make this a bold title that is 50 points over 55. And I also want to have the start of the paragraph, but I think in this case I want it to be a 2-column paragraph with a pretty sizable margin there, or gutter is what it's called. And I love to make things as even as possible, so I want this to be an even 5 inches tall so that I can replicate that somewhere else if I wanted to pretty consistently. And this guy only needs to be 2 inches tall, and so we'll play around with this more later. And I think this page also needs a page number, so I'm going to hit T for type, and I'm going to remember that I chose Acumen Pro, Light, 10 point, and type marker, current page number. Now, if you look here, it says B. Well, that's because this is master page B, so it lets you know which master page you're on. And I want to make sure that that is aligned to the right. And remember, we decided to keep it at 1/4 of an inch below the margin. So I want to make sure that that is duplicated on this page, which is why using your align tool is so important, because if I just had a page number that was like roughly here, and then you flipped back and forth, your page number would be hopping all over the place every time you changed pages, and that would be very distracting. It's a bad deal in terms of design. So you want to make sure that you're putting your page number in the same place. Now let's go in back to our pages and consider the layout. So in a 40-page document, this would probably be your table of contents to let you know where the heck you are. And this would be the beginning of a first section. So I'm going to highlight both of these pages. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say apply master to pages, and we're going to apply master B. All right. Now, it's still showing all the elements from master A, and that's because we overrode that title page, right? Like we overrode the content that was there. So you would want to go in and delete that ahead of time. I'm going to show you here on page 4 and 5 where we didn't override the master page items. I can apply master page B, and you see a even split. So because these master page items had the override, it did not register them in the swap over. It kind of moves them to the background. So if I undo all of this and I grab this guy, I'm just going to delete everything on this page. And I'm going to tell it to apply B. And so now it's there and it's great. And now I can't edit this until I override it, but you can see the elements are there. So this will start to help you get your layout flowing. Now I've got a really great 2-column grid here, or 2-column text box here, that I think is going to be really successful for the amount of content that I have. But I want this, all the other text boxes, to also be 2 columns. So now I want to go back to master page A, and I want this text box and this text. Oh, there's not even a text box here. So I want 2 text boxes, and I want them both to be 2 columns with that same gutter. And I want to make sure that this text box is connected to that text box, right? So that the copy will flow from here to there. And so now when I go back and look at this page, you can see that those text boxes are indeed in place. All right, so that is how you begin to go through and create pacing pages and layout. There's a lot of options that you can do, and we're going to talk about using columns in a different way on the next video, so you can set up a couple more master pages.